Welcome to Nocturnal Nightmares. Did you know that over 1,000 people vanish while camping in national parks each year? And some of these disappearances have no logical explanation. A chilling fact, is it not? The wilderness, for all its beauty, holds secrets and mysteries that can turn a simple camping trip into an inexplicable horror. It's a stark reminder of how quickly a serene encounter with nature can spiral into a terrifying ordeal. Now let's dive into a camping experience that turned into a nightmare. Meet our group of 5 friends, eager for an adventure in the wilderness. A motley crew they were: Jake, the brave and adventurous; Lily, the sensible and cautious; Max, the funny one always ready with a joke; Sarah, the nature lover; and Ben, the quiet and introspective one. They all shared a common love for the outdoors, which made them embark on this camping trip with such enthusiasm. Their hearts were filled with anticipation for the stories they would share, the memories they would create, and the bonds they would strengthen. Little did they know about the world of unknown that lay ahead of them. Underneath the canopy of the sky and amidst the whispers of the woods, they were ready to explore life in its rawest form. But nature has a way of surprising us, doesn't it? Little did they know their excitement would soon turn into sheer terror. Their destination, a secluded camping spot known for its eerie silence and dense woods. Hidden deep within the forest's embrace, this spot was a haven for those seeking solitude. Its beauty was undeniable, with towering trees that seemed to touch the sky, their leaves rustling in the wind like whispered secrets. But it was the silence that was truly unsettling, a quiet so profound it felt like a weighted blanket of unease. The group, full of youthful bravado, initially laughed off the ominous hush. They joked about ghost stories and woodland creatures, their laughter echoing through the trees, a beacon of their denial. But as they set up their tents, there was a sense of apprehension that wasn't there before. They began to feel the isolation of their chosen spot, the silence pressing in on them, the woods watching with 1,000 unseen eyes. As night fell, so did the sense of unease among the group. In the pitch black of the night, the terror began. As the gloaming gave way to the impenetrable darkness, an eerie stillness settled over the camp. It was as if the forest itself held its breath, anticipating the horrors yet to unfold. The friends, huddled in their tents, found little comfort in the flimsy canvas walls that separated them from the unknown. The first sign of trouble was the strange noises. A low, guttural growl off in the distance, too animalistic to be human, yet too human to be purely animal. It was a sound that twisted the stomach and sent icy tendrils of dread curling around their hearts. Then came the whispers, like leaves rustling in a wind that wasn't there. They seemed to be everywhere and nowhere at once, a symphony of indistinct voices that danced around the edge of hearing. It was impossible to make out what they were saying, but the tone was unmistakable. It was a chorus of malice echoing through the night. Next, shadows began to move in the darkness. They were just on the edge of vision, fleeting and insubstantial, but undeniably present. They darted between the trees, skulked in the underbrush, and seemed to flit just beyond the circle of firelight. The friends watched, their hearts pounding as they tried to convince themselves it was just their imaginations running wild. Adding to the mounting terror was the inexplicable disappearance of their belongings. One by one, items vanished from their campsite: a flashlight, a camping knife, even a sleeping bag. It was as if the forest itself was swallowing their possessions, leaving no trace behind. As the night wore on, the friends became a knot of fear. They clung to each other, their eyes wide and their breaths shallow. Every sound, every shift in the shadows, every rustle of leaves sent waves of fresh terror coursing through them. As the night progressed, so did their fear. And then the moment that would haunt them forever. Amidst the whispering trees and the flickering campfire, the night had already woven a tapestry of fear. The strange sounds, the chilling winds, the eerie silence, all had set the stage for the unforgettable terror that lurked in the shadows. As the friends huddled closer together, a sudden rustling in the undergrowth froze the blood in their veins. The crunching of leaves underfoot, the snapping of twigs, Each sound was a symphony of dread, escalating the terror that had already gripped them. And then they saw it. A figure, barely discernible in the dim moonlight, standing at the edge of the woods. It was an apparition that defied description, a silhouette that seemed to waver between reality and the macabre fancies of their frightened minds. As if on cue, a scream pierced the night, echoing through the dense forest, bouncing off the trees and settling like a shroud of fear over the campsite. The scream was not just of terror, but of pain, of pure, unadulterated fear. It was a sound that would forever be etched in their memories, a chilling reminder of the horror they had witnessed. The paralyzing fear was palpable, a tangible entity that had wrapped itself around each one of them. It was as if time had come to a standstill, the seconds stretching into an eternity. The only sound was the deafening silence, punctuated by their own heartbeats drumming in their ears. Every instinct screamed at them to flee, but fear had rooted them to the spot, their eyes transfixed on the haunting figure that seemed to be watching them. The terror was a living, breathing beast, its claws sinking deep into their hearts, holding them captive in its icy grip. Each breath they took was a struggle, each blink a challenge. The night had turned into a living nightmare, the darkness a cloak of fear that seemed to suffocate them. They were prisoners in their own fear, caught in a web of terror spun by the night itself. That night, their worst nightmares came to life. In the aftermath of the horror, their lives were never the same. As dawn broke, the friends, now bound by a shared nightmare, hastily packed their belongings. The once familiar and comforting forest now seemed malevolent, filled with unseen dangers lurking behind every tree. They left the camping spot at first light, their hearts pounding and minds racing. The trauma of that night was more than just a fleeting moment of fear. It was a haunting specter that lingered, a chilling memory that refused to fade. The everyday noises of nature, once soothing, now held a sinister undertone. A rustling leaf, a distant owl's hoot, even the whispering wind became reminders of that dreadful night. Sleep was no longer a sanctuary, but a battleground where nightmares played out the terror again and again. Conversations dwindled as each friend retreated into their own shell, wrestling with the lingering fear that haunted them. They sought help, of course, counselors, therapists, anyone who could provide a balm for their tormented minds. But the terror had etched itself deep, casting long shadows that clouded their lives. Some moved to the city, seeking solace in the concrete jungle away from the wilderness. Others developed a phobia of the dark, of closed spaces, of being alone. They may have left the woods physically, but mentally, the woods clung to them, refusing to let go. They left the woods, but the woods never left them. Now imagine the terror they felt. But what about you? Have you ever experienced the hair-raising dread of the unknown in the dead of night? Deep within the wilderness, where the only sounds are those of the forest and your own heartbeat pounding in your ears? Many of us seek adventure, the thrill of the unknown and the camaraderie that comes from shared experiences. But when the sun sets and the campfire is the only source of light, our minds can play tricks on us. Every rustle in the bushes, every snap of a twig, every hoot of an owl suddenly takes on a sinister edge. Have you ever found yourself huddled in a sleeping bag, eyes wide open, staring into the darkness, your mind filled with terrifying thoughts of what could be lurking just beyond the illumination of your campfire? Have you ever felt like you're not alone, even though you're miles away from the nearest town? Just like our group of friends who set out for a fun-filled camping trip, only to have it morph into a nightmarish ordeal, we all have our stories. Stories that send shivers down our spines. Stories that we recount with a tremor in our voices. Stories that have left a lasting impression. The wilderness is a beautiful yet unforgiving place, full of unknowns and potential dangers. And yet, it's these very elements of uncertainty and risk that make our experiences memorable, albeit chilling at times. So what's your story? Have you ever had a camping experience that's made your blood run cold? An experience that's etched into your memory, never to be forgotten? We'd love to hear about it. Every story has its place, and every experience, no matter how terrifying, adds to the rich tapestry of our lives. Remember to subscribe for more bone-chilling stories. Who knows? The next story could be yours.